God our Father and from our Lord Jesus Christ. And the gospel tells us, and they all sat and were satisfied. But I know some of you aren't satisfied. We're going to make it a little lower and sing that refrain. I love to tell a story. Will be, I can give it on glory to tell the old story of Jesus and His love. Please be seated and join me. Something beautiful, something good. All my confusion, He understood. All I had to offer Him was brokenness and strife, and He made something beautiful of my life. Well, in God's mercy and today's lesson, and gathered here this morning, the people are a bunch of losers. People who have lost, people who are without, people who are wanting. The first loser in this story is Jesus. He lost his friend, his confidant, his cousin, John the Baptist. And the personal grief of Jesus and the disciples of John and all of the nation there who had gone out to hear John the Baptizer preach by the River Jordan. They were all hurting and had gathered that crowd. They followed Jesus when He tried to get alone. He couldn't even get alone out in the boat. And we have that death of John the Baptist that reflects a corrupt and evil leadership in the world at that time. And not all leadership is evil and corrupt, but we're going to see more of that evil and corrupt leadership that caused the death of John the Baptist as we get at the end of Jesus' life in a couple more years here in the time of the Bible. Because the leadership in government, the church, was dominated by keeping the people afraid and keeping them poor, and living out their own pride dominates their world of those leaders back then, like Pilate and Herod, and of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. It happened then, and it still goes on now. And we have some other losers that are in this story, not of grief, because you all know grief. Yes, the grief at a young life especially. At any time it's hard, but it's hard at any time. And Jesus and the disciples, they've been teaching. They've been walking around. They've been ministering to others. And they get this news of the grief. And they're tired, physically and emotionally worn out from their lives, from their ministry, from their grief. And Jesus is shown in His truly humanness. True God, true man. Jesus in His fatigue, wanting to go away and be by Himself and to pray. But He's also shown in His compassion for other people and grows as a human being, showing mercy and coming. That He Himself has no time to rest, but He goes on to minister and serve because of the needs of others. Jesus attempts to get away, but He can't. And the desire to get away, to pray and be alone will dominate the life of Jesus and His pattern of ministry until the Garden of Gethsemane, the night before His very own death. And Jesus grows in expressing His compassion in this event of feeding. Jesus, who humbled Himself, gave up the glory of God, humbled Himself and took on the clothes of a servant. Jesus, losing that glory of heaven, losing someone He loved and cared about, the death of John the Baptist, losing even the time to have alone. And all of this we learn of before his passion, before his resurrection. As we look at these stories this summer that are true events in the life of Jesus and the disciples, they didn't know about his death, his crucifixion. They didn't know about 3 days later he rose from the dead, and that 40 days later he ascended into heaven. So many things they didn't know, but yet they sought him. They sought to be in his presence, and they followed him. And we have the people, the third bunch of losers here, because I don't know what their life was. Some of them could have been quite successful. They could have been on vacation, for all I know. Having a cottage near the lake to stay at. It was before air conditioning, but there they were, gathered together. Huge mob of people following Jesus, but many of them, we know, lived lives of want and shortages and deficiencies and insufficiencies and poverty. What they desired was to be fulfilled, to have abundant, fulfilling, and secure life that Jesus spoke of. Not in terms of earthly riches, but of an abundant life. Not things that can be stolen by the devil, not things that can become useless, but an abundant life living in God's grace and mercy. But they realize they're unable to know that or attain it on their own. And they believe that Jesus will provide for them somehow as they follow him. And they don't even know about the crucifixion where he died and bled for their salvation to earn a place of eternity for them. And they don't realize that they need to get out of the way of themselves. That's who has to go first. Deny ourselves. Take up our cross and follow him. They didn't realize that they needed to change, but they weren't capable of that change, of a new life, that they had to let Jesus change them. And they wanted to see a miracle outside of themselves, not within. But Jesus worked on within what they couldn't imagine. He changed them. Changed their hearts, changed their mind, changed everything about them. As he took just a little bit of food, a couple pieces of bread, a couple little fish, sardine style. We're not talking walleye here. We're not talking salmon. We're talking a couple little, sardine bluegills. Not much to offer here. Panfish. And they became aware of a world and a way that was beyond their knowing before Jesus provided for them. Have you ever had something happen in your life that made you know that there was more possible? You know, today we have television and the internet, so we can know about all kinds of things that we might want or desire, but that it's possible for you. You know, some people are so down and out, they don't know how down and out they are. And it's great when people can say, we were so happy we didn't know we were poor. Okay? Because that's really a blessing to live in God's grace that way, to live in a family that has that love, that you knew that you were being provided for. But a lot of people don't even know how bad off they have it. I like the story about Dolly Parton in her life, who as a child, she was poor. Okay? She was poor. Very poor. And one day, she ran across a Sears catalog and looked in the Sears catalog and saw clothes and furniture and furnishings, and back a long time ago before the Dolly's Parton, they used to sell houses out of the Sears catalog. And they sold musical instruments, and they sold toys, the washing machines, everything. Still at Sears today. This isn't meant to be a commercial, but this in Dolly's life, she saw a Sears catalog, and it changed her, of her expectations, of what was out. This day, these people that were tired and been there all day, somehow they managed to come out and go on a field trip, go to a picnic, and not bring any food to eat. Or at least that's what they told each other, that they didn't have anything. And they see Jesus, the Word made flesh, who dwelt among us full of grace and truth. They beheld His glory. He blessed the little He had. And somehow, there was enough food to have more than enough left over. Wow, learning that life can be different, that it can be abundant. That's an amazing thing. The saddest thing I see is people clinging to their crumbs and rags and the rage in their heart and all. It's all they know. And rather than seeking more in the world, and especially in the kingdom of God. The people that were following Jesus that day were so fearful that they could not enjoy what they did have because they didn't trust those around. Remember, they lived in a tough world just as we do, maybe tougher. And someone they knew and respected, the news was out that he'd been beheaded. For doing something wrong? No. For being a messenger of God. Now, here's where I get controversy. I know that Jesus could have miraculously created bread and fish. But Jesus didn't come to create bread and fish for people who were too irresponsible to pack a lunch when you head out for the day. Okay? Jesus came that all might be saved. He came not into the world to condemn the world, but to save it. He came to change the world, to renew it, to repair that broken world which is dominated by fear, and those that should have been letting them know of the grace of God, those that were the leaders in the government, those that were the leaders in the church, particularly at that time,